American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today. Signed.
Well, hello, everyone. Let me first start off by saying happy Martin Luther King Jr.'s Memorial Day. For my Facebook and YouTube family, welcome and thank you for joining us tonight. As you can hear in Bella's voice, I'm a little toned down today, family, because we're talking about a very critical subject today, and I want your input. And when I say I want your input, I do not want to hear nice hellos tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to get down with the get down. As I've been promoting our guest for tonight, this is a very serious and critical discussion for mature audience only. So welcome everyone to the Bella Biz Unplugged. In 1989, at just 15 years old, young Dr. Yusef Salaam was tried and convicted in the Central Park jogging case, along with 4 other Black and Latino young men. After almost 7 years behind bars, he served on a crime that he did not even commit. Dr. Yusef's case was overturned and he was set free. Now, I got a lot of people, as I'm seeing these numbers are going up, that are aware of the story. And I also know that a lot of people are not. So what I'm going to do tonight is introduce Dr. Yusef Salaam, one of my trusted friends and colleagues that I met several years ago at a Congressional Black Caucus. I believe, Yusef, it was in 2017 or 18. I'm losing my track. I've done quite a few of them. I think it was my last year, though. But I met the Central Park Boys, which I love the rename, which is the Exonerated 5 at the Congressional Black Caucus when they were getting the Pinnacle, I believe, Yusef, award for that evening. So without further ado, audience, as I told you earlier this week, bring your questions, bring your comments, bring your concerns, but we're talking about better, not bitter. Without further ado, for some of you who've never heard of Dr. Yusef, get your education on and get ready. Dr. Yusef Salaam, thank you and welcome for coming back again on the Bella Biz Show. How you doing, sir?
Oh, listen, I'm doing wonderfully, and I'm definitely glad to be on your show again. You know, in these times, we're experiencing what would seem like the Twilight Zone. Just give me a moment.
Absolutely. As he gets his throat together, y'all know we live and we keep it real. He's got to lubricate himself. But as y'all coming on and get them questions out, because we're going to attack. We only have an hour. I do respect every guest time. If Dr. Yusef has a few more minutes afterwards, that's fine. But we're going to get down with the get down. And I want everyone to know as Dr. Yusef is getting ready to speak, Tonight, he is E.F. Hutton. And y'all know that old commercial. When E.F. Hutton speaks, everybody listens. So as y'all coming on in the room, I got jokes, Yusef. I ain't playing. I promised myself my own lid on it. That's very hard for Bella to do, but we about getting down with some get down tonight. Okay?
I love it. I love it. Listen, that's real. But the craziest thing about my story is that my story is a story that the system wants to make you believe they made a mistake. We live in a country that they tell you that you're innocent until proven guilty. They tell you that you will be represented because you pay taxes. So therefore, the statement no taxation without representation is very popular. But the truth of the matter is that when you have this color of skin, you are judged by the color of your skin and not the content of your character. They looked at us as 14, 15, and 16-year-old children, and they said they had to be guilty of something. The truth of the matter was that we were guilty of being black and brown. Donald Trump back then, yeah, that same Donald Trump, the one who became the president of the United States, the one who's under investigation right now for all of the things that happened and all of the things that are going on, that Donald Trump, 2 weeks after we were accused, he had already created and ratified that document that sits in my office on the floor saying, bring back the death penalty, bring back the police. They wanted us to be executed in 1989. And in their rush to judgment, there was no, well, let's see what's going on. This case seems a little strange. Things aren't adding up. I mean, it wasn't until the Central Park 5 documentary came out and you heard my good friend Raymond Santana, who was 14 in 1989, reading his false confession, the same false confession that people heard in 1989. And he read, and it reads something like this. At approximately 1900 hours, me and a group of my colleagues began to walk south. And then he looks up and he says, what 14-year-old boy talks like that? And I tell you, you could hear the audible gasp in the room as to everyone's realization. How did we believe this? None of the stories matched. Nobody's DNA was present. This lady lost 3/4 of her blood. And yet people like Donald Trump pulled out big looming ads to do to us what they had done to Emmett Till. Right on the heels of that, Pat Buchanan, another media personality, writes in the papers, why don't we just take the eldest one and hang him from a tree in Central Park? Why don't we take the others and horsewhip them? And he said that we should do this by June 1st. We hadn't even gone to trial yet. We went to trial and we lost. 13 years would go by before the truth would come out. And when the truth came out, my mother said it best. It was a whisper. She wondered if the rats in New York City even heard. Even to this day, there's still this negative residue surrounding our case. Well, they had to be guilty of something. No, every person that was assaulted in the park came to the courthouse, and on the witness stand, they were asked, do you see the person or persons who did this to you? And every single one of them, with the exception of the jogger, looked around the courtroom and said it wasn't any of these guys. Now imagine that. We were on trial for our lives. And I'm talking about literally for our lives. Dr. King is quoted. This is Dr. King Day. So I love to think about our great leader, especially some of the quotes that I use all the time as it regards finding your purpose in life. Dr. King is quoted that when you find your purpose in life, do it as if God himself called you to do it at this very moment. And instead of giving us a grand idea of what that purpose looks like, maybe the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, a billionaire, we're on the cusp of some of us being trillionaires now. He said, if your purpose in life is to be a street sweeper, sweep the streets like Michelangelo painted pictures. like Leoton Price sang before the opera, like Beethoven composed music. I mean, think about this. Every single one of us is born on purpose. And I can prove this to you because of a conversation I had with my good friend Les Brown. Les Brown said to me, he said, every one of us, when our parents got together to create us, we were all one of over 400 million options racing to the egg. And you made it. That means that you were born on purpose. And if you were born on purpose, you have to know that you have a purpose. My story is a tragedy because they tried to make me believe that I was born a mistake. And if you are born a mistake, imagine the life that you live. You begin to create all sorts of problems. The system tells many of our young people that you don't matter. And the truth of the matter is that you do matter. Psychosocially, we need you. But more importantly, we need you to believe in yourself, because if you believe in yourself, nothing that anyone tells you, like the Donald Trumps of the world, will affect you. You will go through the fire like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, not even smelling like smoke. Because guess what? They always forget the owner of the heat. Always. Yeah.
I love that. Listen, I'm going to chime in right now and show everybody Dr. Yusef, as I know him, my brother, this is his latest, and I mean latest bestsellers. He's going to talk to you about the several other books he's written, but we're shaping today's topic of conversation. I'm giving you what you want, y'all. Y'all said bring them on. I'm bringing them on. Bring the questions. But today we're talking about better, not bitter. Okay? And we'll talk more about this book a little bit later. I'll show you you can go get the book. I have the information about the book, but I just wanted to chime in, Yusef, and more visual for my people. Better,
absolutely,
not bitter.
Listen, I want folks to know this, right? This cover is a cover. This is my mugshot. This is me. This is my side profile. When they say face forward and then turn to the side, this is me at 1989, 15 years of age. This is my mugshot.
Wow.
Better Not Bitter is perhaps one of the most powerful of titles when it comes to my story, because anyone in their mind, as they think about the Central Park jogger case, they say to themselves, why do they still smile? How do they find a means to live life? It's almost as if they're waiting for us to lose our minds. And if we do lose our minds, they would say, well, y'all created it. Y'all created the monster. I'm going to tell you the trick. The system wants us to believe that Newton's third law of motion is not true. Newton's third law of motion, the same thing we learned in school, for every action as an equal and opposite reaction. They want the people to believe that that is absolutely not true. They want to turn the cameras on the margins of life and tell you that these people are crazy. Tell you that these people have chosen this plight. Tell you that their families that have been broken is because they've chosen to break themselves. They don't want to tell you about the welfare programs that disallow people to get welfare if there was a male at home. They don't want to tell you about the prison industrial complex being the new Jim Crow through the 13th Amendment. And that's not even the most important part of it, right? While I'm on that subject, I just want to really point out the fact that in my previous book, Punching the Air, I talk about the 13th Amendment. I actually read the 13th Amendment here, right in this thing. And it says the Constitution of the United States on page 277. 13th Amendment, section 1. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude shall exist except as a punishment of a crime where the party shall have been duly convicted shall exist within the United States or any other place subject to their jurisdiction. That's not the most important part of the 13th Amendment. The most important part of the 13th Amendment is Section 2. Congress shall have power
Yes.
to enforce this article through appropriate legislation. Now we begin to understand what's going on. That this matrix that we've been living in is truly a matrix, because those of us who feel like we're Neo in the matrix, I'm talking about the old Neo, not the new Neo, not the new Neo, nothing about the film industry, but we all understand what's going on.
Right.
But when you wake up to the truth, you know, when you put the glasses on of truth, you can never unsee the truth. You could never unsee it. I was blessed to go through the prison industrial complex. I use those words purposefully. I was blessed to go through it because instead of just going through something, I grew through something.
Mm.
I found out that that this case was a case that God was going to use in order to show the people a miracle in modern time. I call the Central Park Jogger case a love story between God and his people. It's a story of a criminal system of injustice toppled and placed on his side in order to produce a miracle in modern times. It's a story of a people that they have buried alive and forgotten, but the system forgot we were seeds. And so instead of a social death, we emerged like a phoenix from the ashes, because as they built the fire to consume us, just like I said before, they forgot the owner of the heat. And so we emerge with a newfound understanding about what's going on, still having our faculties intact, still able to talk truth to power, and more importantly, unafraid. Fear is false evidence appearing real. Because once you stand up and you conquer your fear, you say to yourself, what was I afraid of? Courage is not the absence of being afraid, but it's acknowledgement and still standing still standing up for what's right. Our elders are looking at our younger generations and they're hoping that they get it. I'm hoping that my generation and the generations to come get it, because as we package in our DNA the baton of everything great and we pass it back to the future that is coming forward, we want them to understand how to break generational curses. We want them to understand how to create generational plans as opposed to just trying to plan for the weekend. The industry, they took our culture and used it against us. And like I said, with the movie industry, nothing, not to say anything bad about the the music industry, but when I'm hearing songs that's telling me to spend that check and get it right back, and I spend that check because I'm drinking and I'm drugging and I'm having fun and it's the weekend and I couldn't wait till the weekend and I spent that check and I didn't get the check back. Now, we got to be wise about how we move. We got to be able to understand the game. And this is part of what Better Not Bitter is all about. It's about making sure that your emotional state is so totally protected that they can never knock you out of your square. Because anything can happen to you, but it's what happens inside of you that makes all of the difference.
Brother Yusef, take a bow, because I'm telling you right now, as people are coming on to this broadcast, we were talking early when we were in the studio, right before we went live. And fam, you all know me. I'm putting my life out there. I'm a year in to self-entrepreneurship for real, for real. That's another episode, tied to the check, quitting that good government job. You know what I'm saying, brother? But I went over to Tanzania and came back. I have not been the same. That's another episode too. But I'm saying all this to bring up to all of these thousands of people coming on. Better Not Bitter. This is an interactive segment, so I don't want y'all to get the popcorn like I normally do and sit back. I want interaction. Y'all know what I'm saying? Because this is a very serious, we are in a state, no, we are in a global world sea of mess. And guess what, y'all? We can get ourselves out of this mess. So Yusef,
Yeah.
or always saying to Bella, hey, yeah, sounds good. You know, yappa, 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 yappa. I want us to break down some simple fundamentals within this hour frame we have. And by that, I'm going to ask you just a couple of simple questions. Take notes, family. And as I see, Yusef, I'm very happy to announce I have several of my friends, my kakas, and my daughters, which is Swahili for brothers and sisters from Tanzania. Now I'm getting ready to say something, so give me a second, brother Yusuf. I'm getting ready to put the mother hat on. Now, if my brothers and sisters, my kakas and daughters, which is Swahili for brothers and sisters, can be looking at Bella Live when it's 8 hours advanced, when it's 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning where they are, come on, people. That's one example of not just integrity, but support. And it used to be a time, remember, brother, you said, well, we used to, our word used to be our bond.
Oh,
when
yes.
we were going to do something, did we not do it, Yusef?
We had to be about it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. We had to be about it, because if we weren't about it, our name would be mud in the streets and everybody would talk about us and everybody would know and we would be outcast.
I'm going to show a couple of just some haze. Now, this is my friend. This is Deep from Tanzania, Africa, family. I said, y'all support Bella. I'm coming back. That's another episode, probably the end of this year. What do? They commit. Okay? Our brothers and sisters on the other side of the globe, they commit every time I ask them to do anything, you said. There's my man, Emmanuel. He is my number one lead kaka. He's a security manager for a hotel. Shout out Emmanuel to Grand Malia in Arusha, where I stayed at. And he's been following and working with me ever since. And that was in October. So Yusef, let's get back to Better Not Bitter. I want some practical applications. People say to me all the time, yeah, it all sounds good, Bella, but I want to take this opportunity, Yusef, because you're sacred to me. For those who know your story, people say, how can he look like he looked, smile like he smiled, have the attitude like he has, write several books, go across the country talking about his love affair, as he said to you, about being incarcerated. Break that thing down and take it from here, Yusef.
I just want to start by saying my good friend Jimmy Gardner, he was in prison. He did Nelson Mandela time. He was in prison for 27 years for a crime he didn't commit. And he was actually going to go and be a baseball person. He was going into the Cubs in the baseball league in America. And as a young man, they put him up on trumped up charges, told him that he raped someone and put him in prison. And it was 27 years that had gone by. And he's the one that reminded me. He said, good brother, thank God we don't look like what we've been through. But see, you know what I think it is? I think it's that God is trying to show us that he's not done with us yet. That he could take the ones who have been counted out and make those the ones that people count on. Not count on for anything other than inspiration, for opportunity to be able to say, if they could fall down in life and get back up, just like the great philosopher Cardi B said, knock me down 9 times, I'll get up 10.
Come on now.
You gotta be able to keep getting up. Everybody wants to be a diamond, but no one wants to get cut. No one wants to go through the pressure of what it takes to be a diamond. I'm telling you that the truth of the matter is that, and this is from my good friend and teacher, educator, Dr. Marimba Ani. Dr. Ani said to me when we were at Hunter College, she said, She said, you know what? If we decided that their system ceases to exist, tomorrow their system will cease to exist. What we have to get in order for that reality to happen, because see, we're good loving people. We're not the type of people that people or the system wants people to believe we are, right? When they come into neighborhoods that we occupy, they tell you don't go there at night. They tell you to go in groups. And then all of a sudden, when the neighborhood gentrifies and those individuals come into the neighborhood, what do they find out? They find out if they went to the store, came back home, and forgot their sugar in the store, they could knock on their neighbor's door and say, "Hey, listen, I forgot the sugar in the store. Can I get a cup of sugar?" And guess what we'll give you? A cup of sugar. It ain't gonna be boric acid. It's not gonna be salt. It's gonna be sugar, because that's the type of people that we are. We always, as my good friend Michelle Obama, I'm gonna just call it right. Michelle Obama, I'm gonna say she's my good friend, right? She said, when they go low, we go high.
Yep.
We have to remain noble, because when we go other than our natural God-given selves, it doesn't sit right with us and it destroys us at the same time. But we have to also understand that in us becoming the great people that we need to be again, we have to unify.
Mm.
There was a picture, and this picture was one of the most powerful depictions I've ever seen about life. It was a game of life, and in the game of life, it was a big board. People were playing chess on the big board. But when you zeroed in and zoomed in, you realized that the people who were playing chess on the big board were being played on a bigger board. And the people who were being played on the bigger board they were bending over and the board was on their backs.
Mm.
And it made me think, what if the people just got up? What if they stood up? They need us in order for the system that they have created to perpetuate itself. They need us, like they need you. You are the ingredient. You're the secret. And as long as we don't believe that, like if we don't think we're the secret, then we'll always play into their design for us. Just like the system wanted me to believe that the definition for Yusef Salaam was that he was to be a rapist.
Mm-hmm.
My mother told me, I don't know if y'all have seen the film. If y'all haven't seen it, you got to see this film. It's important. When They See Us by Ava DuVernay. It is the true depiction of our story. Young people are portraying us and reinvigorating new life into our story so that you can understand what's important and why. But there's a scene in there where my mother comes in the interrogation room and gets me out of the clutches of the enemy. She came into that room and her cape was still blowing in the wind. And when she got the moment with me, she said to me, and this is not in the film, she said to me, stop talking to them. And then she said to me, they need you to participate in whatever it is that they're trying to do. Do not participate. Refuse. This is how important this is. This is like literally like the think about the system, and I'm talking about the criminal justice system, right? The criminal so-called legal system. They'll tell you you have the right to remain silent. But then yet they'll say to you, but you could talk to us. No, we can't. Because if we talk to you, part 2 of the Miranda kicks in. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Not we're going to take what you say and we're going to sift through it and try to understand it. No, 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 no. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Then they tell you you have the right to an attorney. But we see, like, we're pseudo experts. If we watch any kind of criminal show, I shouldn't say criminal show because it's not a criminal show, but depictions of the criminal justice system on TV shows like NCIS.
Yeah.
CSI, Law and Order, all of these TV shows, right? We're pseudo experts. When we watch these TV shows, what do we see? The officer says, "Oh, but you could talk to us. Only criminals need attorneys.
Mm.
Get an attorney, even if it's a court-appointed attorney." Because see, young people, the most precious commodity, have always been told that they're not worth nothing. And a lot of them believe that. And like I said before, because they believe that, they begin to move throughout their lives like they're mistakes. They're worth everything, but they're told they're worth nothing. They are the caretakers of tomorrow. Imagine those of us who have the power to pump life into our young people. Imagine us telling our young people, you matter, you're valuable, we love you, we care about you. Let me show you, let me help you. Man, that young person will show up and shine brightly, because light eschews darkness. They wanted to turn my light down. They wanted to dim it. They wanted to take it like a candle and blow it out. They wanted to snuff my light out. They wanted me to accept their definition. But my mother told me to refuse. And ever since then, I've been refusing. And I've been telling everybody else that I can refuse. They need you to participate. Don't participate in your own destruction. Don't capitulate in the destruction of our people. Rise above that. They need you, but we need you.
Take a pause. Listen, Yusef, you know I'm trying really hard to contain myself. I got about 20 of the same questions. If you could perhaps share, okay, guys, I'm going to reshape the question. Basically, people are asking Yusef if you can share one of two of what did you do during the course of the years to keep yourself going and positive. I've got 14 of the same questions. People are asking, how long were you incarcerated and what did you do to keep your mind strong and motivated while you were?
I love that question. That's the same question that Oprah Winfrey asked me. And if you watch When They See Us Now, you're going to hear me say the same thing that I'm going to tell you. But I'm gonna expound upon it. I got through it because I meditated. I had to learn that the meditation that I needed to institute in my life was walking meditation. I couldn't sit down in a room with beautiful music playing and incense burning with my legs crossed. I had to learn how to meditate with my breath, walking by killers, walking by people who wanted to do me harm. I had to learn how to project my energy out so that I could move the crowd. You understand what I'm saying? I had to be able to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that God got me and I'm going to be all right. This too shall pass. They say when you're walking through hell, keep on walking. I had to learn that, and I had to know. See, because the education that I went in was not an education where I was sitting in in front of a teacher and taking notes and listening and okay, that's okay. That no. God put me through the fire so that I could never not know. I'm binded, like God bound me to Him. You understand what I'm saying? They can't rip you from God. I did 7 years in prison, but 7 years in prison was not the totality of the time that I did. Because when they alter your life like that, I mean, for those of us who are on the motherland right now, imagine our history. They told us that we were slaves. They didn't tell us that we were kings and queens and princesses and scientists and astronomers and all of the other good things that we found out. They didn't tell us that. When I went to Africa for the first time in 2018, I went to Senegal and we went through the door of no return. We went to Goree Island, and some of the people that I was with went on and they went to Gambia. And I remember they called me on the phone and they said we were talking to the Gambians and they were talking about Kunta Kinte, and they know who Kunta Kinte is. And they taught them the true story of Kunta Kinte. They said Kunta Kinte was one of our princes. And when they came and kidnapped him, we sent over 200 of our fiercest and best warriors after him. Every single one of them lost their lives. And so when we think about the depictions of Kunta Kinte and Roots, that tells us what is really going on. They're whipping him mercilessly, telling him his new name is Toby. And he's saying, no, my name is Kunta. And what it's telling us also is that when he looked like he capitulated, he buried deep inside of himself the truth, so that one day his children's children's children will be able to carry on. That's what it's all about. Meditating is one of the secrets of life. Because just like my good friend Les Brown said, he said, if you can't see it, you can't be it.
Come on.
You got to be able to project yourself into a future of everything great. Part of the law of attraction is you being able to say to yourself with certainty, I'm going to make it. And then you're going to create a plan after you say that you're going to make it. I want you to be able to look at what it was, think about what was it that you did just before you made it, and write that down. And then what did you do before that? And write that down. And write down all of the steps that you took all the way back to your present state. Now you have a plan. That's not to mean that the plan won't change, won't morph, won't shape into something else. But if you have no plan, you have no direction. But if you can project yourself into that kind of future, and this is where the law of attraction works, marry the vision with what you think it will feel like. Once you felt it, you will never not want anything but that. And so the people that are struggling in college, if they can see themselves graduating and taking that tassel and moving it from one side of their hat to the next, and imagine the cheers and the roars of them being celebrated by their loved ones, having made it, gone through this tremendous process, guess what they're going to do when they wake up tomorrow? They're going to be focused.
Absolutely. I'm going to get a couple of comments. You said, you know what we talked about. I've got a family member. Hey, Valeria Farrah. She's out of Georgia, Yusef. She's saying our children and teens need to know their worth. You're so right. Thank you, Dr. Yusef. And we do mean that. I mean, they're rolling in. I've got Denise Winston in the DMV. Hey, Shelly, that's my soror. We know we just had, AKA day yesterday, Yusef. Denise is like agreeing and saying our youth need us. They need to know they're mattered and they are loved. And we know, Yusef, that's the number one problem. You have children. I have a grown daughter. It's our community. We've got to do something. It's just a couple of them coming in. I
want to just say this about us.
Yes.
And what we have to do, because sometimes we are confronted with the now, and the now says, oh my goodness, these children are, these are different kind of children. No, they're not. I want you to do this. When I was walking down 125th Street, I had my pants sagging. I was 12 years old. I've been about 6'3" since I was 12. So I'm tall, lanky. I'm about this skinny, walking down the block, and my pants is sagging. Like, not how it's sagging nowadays, but it was sagging. One of the elders, as I walked by, he said to me, did you see yourself before you walked out of the house? I'm not talking about like, did you look at yourself in the mirror from your front Did you look? Did you turn around and look at your whole self? He said, you don't look good. And in my mind, I probably was telling him off. But because he said something, guess what happened when he left my presence? I looked at myself in the mirror and I had to agree. I never wore my clothes like that again. See, if we don't say anything, our children will continue. And I'm not talking about just our personal children, I'm talking about our community of children. They will never know. We have to say something. We have to be able to, like, this is what Better Not Bitter is all about. It is planting those seeds inside of the hearts and the minds of all of the future childrens that are coming. And this is the water. The rest of this is the water that is allowing for those seeds to grow. This is my story, but it's not just my story. I went through this not for me. I went through this for us. That's how deep this story is.
I
I
love
just
it.
wanted to say that.
Yeah, I love it. They're coming in. You know, I got to keep myself honest. You said, I don't know. They blowing me up. I might have to get 2 accounts. You said, I can't keep up with them. I mean, people are like who are following you, know you. This is this is my roomie. That's I call a roomie from Baltimore. Yusef, her name is Renee. She's saying absolutely. She agrees with everything that you're saying. Yusef, thank you, thank you, thank you. She appreciate the reminders just about life, what's going on. I know Renee have some black sons of her own. Then we have a comment from my friends. That's my new family, Yusef, out of Tanzania. D. She says that 1994 crime bill put too many black boys and men in cage slave ships. And today, American descendants of slavery lack agency as a group. Any comments on that? And that's very, very true. Thank you, D.
You know, part of the way that they do this is by see, the ultimate technology is education. And really it's not just education, it's miseducation.
Oof.
By the way, Dr. Carter G. Woodson wrote the book The Miseducation of the Negro, but he also wrote the book The Education of the Negro. So if folks only know about one, they got to get the other. Because see, when they've trained you to believe something that is not true, you will believe it because they taught you it, and they're telling you that this is what it is. There's going to be a few people that are going to be like, nah, that don't sound right. Something wrong with that. But the majority are going to be like, no, that's right. That's what it is. It's almost like, and I don't even want to talk about this from a perspective of where we are today in the world,
right,
where people say we're talking about like in terms of the big C, right? -19. I'm not talking about it from the perspective of a anti or a pro. But what we need to know is this: the government told us that if we followed their direction, we could go back outside. We followed their direction, went outside, and then we got new information. That the information that they told us wasn't complete. And maybe they knew, maybe they didn't know, right? But they shouldn't have told us that we could go back to life as normal, because a lot of people believed it. A lot of people believed it, and a lot of people are moving in that truth, thinking that that's what it is. And so if the education that is going in is mixing with the natural self, we are at odds with our own self. Serious.
Yeah. As you collect yourself, I'm telling you, Seth, brother, you are absolutely right. There's a lot going on. And I know we can only touch a little bit on this segment because we have about 15 minutes left or so. And like I told you earlier, everybody knows Bella. You should know what I stand for. I really want the whole family to capture your essence as you talk. There's been so much going on. Today is MLK, brother Yusef.
Hmm.
A day on and a day off. I mean, we kind
Yeah.
of caught up. I was telling brother Yusef, fam, and I did talk to briefly Dr. Reverend Bernice King about the upcoming events. We're going to work real hard to get her on this show before the end of this first quarter. And I'm telling you, brother, she said something very profound to me, though. It's a trend. We kind of get trendy in terms of saying cliche things.
Right.
Part of I have a dream speech or whatever. And I'm not disrespecting anybody. I'm just stating a fact. But she said something very powerful, you said. She said, it's all cool. People honor my dad and all, but I dare not venture to say this year going forward, don't you dare put your social media timelines with a lot of things that my father stood for and then turn around and do a movement,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Talk
Yeah.
about that as we talk about the contents of being better, not bitter. And again, you said they're coming in. People just cannot understand your posture, your position for those who know your story very well and saw a rejuvenate's depiction of your life. Or
I want people to consider this when they think about Dr. King. They murdered him. I just want folks to consider that just for a moment, right? Think about what he did and what he stood for, and how they want him to be relegated to the dream speech. Even the dream speech is powerful. But I'm going to tell you, Dr. King wanted the American dream just like we all wanted the American dream. And we wanted the system to believe in like give us what you say you are. Be true to your word. Make your word your bond, right? Dr. King woke up to the American nightmare. They killed him. He didn't like think about how young he was. I'm 40, I'm going on 48 this year. Dr. King was a young man.
39 when he was
You know what I'm saying? I mean, they take out our brightest and our biggest stars as young men, not because of anything more than to send a message to the rest of us to never aspire to stand up and be courageous as a Dr. King. But like I said before, courage is not the absence of fear, but it's acknowledgement and still standing up and doing what's necessary. And so as we consider the fact that they killed Dr. King, they tried to kill the dream, and then they relegated him to just being a dreamer. But Dr. King woke up a long time ago, and Dr. King was trying to wake all of us up. I never forget one of the more important speeches that he stated towards the very end of his life was the speech about economic boycotts.
yes.
He talked about how if we take our money and we decide not to spend it with them, but we spend it with ourselves. See, what we have to understand is that this system is so wicked that even if we refuse to give them a dime, they see it as an act of war.
Mm.
We need to understand that it's an act of war. Because just like the Black Wall Streets of America, not the Black Wall Street, the Black Wall Streets, because we're finding out that there were multiple places Black people had gotten themselves together and were doing extremely well.
Oh, yes. We
Even
have
down here in Georgia, right? They talk about the Lake Laniers and all of that, like cities that have been buried, right? Stories that have not been told about the atrocities that have gone on. History is our best teacher. And like my mother says this, and this is something that we got to always contend with because this is the truth. My mother said, no one gets out of here alive. So we got to live full so we could die empty.
Mm.
We can't take to our graves all of the good things that we're supposed to birth in this world. The most wealthiest place, as they say, is not Africa where there's gold and diamonds or the Middle East where there's oil. The wealthiest place is the graveyard where people's hopes and dreams and aspirations go to die. Because if you don't give birth to it and you say, someday I'll get to it, by the time you look up, someday came and went. And it's
Oh,
time, it's your time. And so we got to live as full of life as we can because we will not leave until we finished our mission.
no. I got to get some of these comments. And Yusef, I'm telling you, listen, I got something I really want to say. I want you to comment on. Denise Winston out of DMV was saying they wanted to stop the movement. You're absolutely right, Denise. I mean, that's what it's all about. They wanted to stop the movement. I mean, I can go on and on. I can tell you, coming from the league, our history in terms of the whole voter right registration, suppression, 1920 with the League of Women Voters for the white sisters, not us, started, and on and on and on. But we've got so many organizations going on today, you said, but I want your comment on this. I'm going to pull it up. It's actually from my friends from Tanzania, and I want to see their perspective. Now, Dee says, she's quoting from Dr. King, okay, Yusef? If peace means a willingness to be exploited economically, dominant politically, humiliated, and segregated, the other part of it is, I don't want peace. It's from Dr. King. And for those of who really have followed him, and I know you have, as I have, you said, he was starting to shift some of his ideology toward the end before he was assassinated. And I'm going to say this publicly. I don't have a problem with it because I do fact check. I speak what I research. His ideology was changing. And I believe as I talked to members of his family and Sir Ambassador Young, he said to me and confirmed he was moving towards the fact, peacefully, I'm not sure if peacefully is going to work. What's your comment, if any, on that, brother?
History is the best teacher. History is the best teacher. We want peace, but in order to achieve peace, we have to understand the war and what the war entails. You cannot enter a war in peace. It's impossible. Right? Even if you're peaceful in the war, like people who've gone to war and they had the gun, they never shot a bullet. But guess what? The enemy saw a person with a gun.
That's right.
And so they said to themselves, uh-oh, let me run the other way. The person never had to use the gun. All I'm saying is that if a person or people will come into your home and look at your children and say, that's my children now. Look at your wife and say, that's my wife now. Look at your daughters and say, that's my wife now. And I'm talking about the ugly side of it. We got to understand what's at stake. We go through something and we want to be able to say they will see us. They're not looking at us. Just recently on social media, they were talking about what's going on over in Bosnia.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how the language and the actions were very similar to the massacre that had gone on just a few years ago, right? The neighbors came out and killed all of the people and said, and they didn't care. They were drinking afterwards and they had blood on them and they were standing in the streets, eating food, drinking, and having a good time. People of God don't move like that. But people of God also know too that history is our best teacher. We have to use wisdom as we move forward. That may mean that we may have to shut our networks down. That may mean that we may have to go back to the old school way of doing things. They talk about our ancestors in Egypt, how they knew how to send messages telepathically. And I'm just saying, like, there's nothing new under the sun. All of these things seem strange and seem like it causes people to be very, very, like to have tremendous trepidation.
Mhm.
But even, and this is the part that's, this is like really crazy, right? They'll give you a medicine, and in today's time, if the medicine has been already like they've gone through the process of vetting it and all of that stuff, they'll give you the medicine, but right underneath the video, the commercial of the medicine, it'll say something like actor or actress portrayals. And then you'll see a person having a good old time, having fun. They outside, they're doing this, they're doing that. And then meanwhile, they're telling you, oh, if you take this, you might lose your arm, you might lose your leg, you might lose your head. But you're not seeing that. They will always make you believe things are different because they show you something. Your vision is a window, and whatever gets implanted through your eyes touches your soul. Whatever gets implanted through your ears touches your soul. Whatever you eat into your body touches your soul. All of these things, all of these things matter.
Wow. Yusef, I mean, they're coming in as usual. Do I know human nature? Yusef, it's about 100 comments coming in on the last 3 minutes, and I'm going to just pick this last one. I'm going to make the comment, and please just whatever comes to your heart. This is from one of my followers. Hey, Barton, thanks for joining us this evening. Barton is saying, I am also reminded of Dr. King's speech in Philly, Brother Yusef, where we saw such a shift happening, where he said to be proud of being Black and that Black is beautiful. And I am Black and I am proud. And I thank you for that. That's my white brother Barton Fox making that comment. I appreciate that, Barton. Thank you very much. And he also says, that's right. There's no such thing as a side effect. That's what the stuff does. Any comments on that? Hey, I mean,
I mean, the best of the best has already been out there on social media, and I love it. Right, the best of it is, the depiction of, the I don't know if it's, I know it's a woman, but it's a person on a hospital bed after they've been told, listen, you don't have to go home anymore. You could, just take a day off and come back to work if you get COVID. And this is like the person is spinning around in the bed. Like, we've been lied to. We have been absolutely lied to.
let me tell you.
I'm not saying that folks shouldn't, and I don't want to make this into that part of the
Right.
last bit of the thing. But what I will say is this: if we know that we could eat to have life, right? Or we could eat to take life. Meaning, I used to write my grandmother in prison, and my grandmother, she would always write me Master. She would always say Master Yusef Salaam when she wrote the letters, and it was like a wise way of not only letting me know who she thought I was, but also letting the prisoners know as they molested my envelopes and read it before I got it, who they had. I used to say to her, may God bless you with a long life. And she said, you should say rather, may God grant you life in your years.
Ooh.
Because see, if you have life in your years, now we're talking about something else. Like, everybody dies, right? But it's about the quality of the life that we have But if we're taking things like with this whole idea from what the question was saying about the medicine, if we're taking things and we're thinking that that's the cure and we can continue to do the negative things that we have been doing, it's one thing to take the cure and then change your life, but it's another thing to take the cure and continue down the wrong path. So that's just my thoughts on that.
Wow. Wow. Listen, we're a few minutes. We're going a little bit over, but what I want to do, I got to make my commitment. Yusef, you know how Bella's committed. Jimmy's going to kill me if I don't do this. So what I'm going to do now, my audience, y'all coming in, y'all always do this. You're waiting for an hour. Just throw the question to Yusef. I'm trying to train them, Yusef. Okay, let's get back. I digress. For all of those who came on early and for the rebroadcast, if you are interested in getting, come on, Yusef. Better not
better.
I got to get it back to Yusef because I want an autograph, brother. I need a forward in here.
Listen, I'm definitely going to sign it. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I want all my family to get on up out of here and go to www.grandcentralpublishing.com. And what you need to do is don't worry about going right to the source all the time. Get in there and peruse a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Don't be all give it to me straight, Bella. No. How about let's take a few minutes, go to the website, and once you go to the website, you will see this, Better, Not Bitter, which is Yusef's, one of his many Grand Central Publishing companies. And you can find, I'm talking about, I'm not even going to tell you how many he has. He has several books that he has written. Every single book that he has written is underneath of this website. Y'all know I'm on stream, y'all. You know Bella keep it real. I couldn't make it all nice and fancy. Do some work, folks. So get on your iPads and your laptops and your devices and go to www.grandcentralpublishing.com. For those people who read, because Yusef, I only work with people who read.
I'm going to tell you this, right? If you listen to, right, because it's all about education and continuing education. If you get an opportunity to go to Audible as well, I'm the narrator for my book. And just so that you know, the narrator for Punching the Air on Audible is the young man who played me in When They See Us, Ethan Harisi. So it's like a gift that keeps on giving. You know, I tell people too, like if you really want to do some real powerful stuff, do this thing called immersion. Purchase the book and listen and read and listen at the same time. You retain things on a whole nother level like that.
Well, I'm being nice because you're my guest for the second time. Do not want him back the third time. No, Yusef, check us out. Now I'm going in my mother mode because sometimes I say folks are lazy who want to read the Audible. I mean, listen to the Audible, but you know what? We got to get it in the best way, Yusef.
But I say get both. Like if you see it, especially if you're in the Georgia area, I sign these books sometimes and place them. Like if I see them at Target, I'll sign them and put it back on the shelf. If I see it at Barnes & Noble, I'll sign it and put it back on the shelf. If I'm happen to go by a mom and pop shop and I see the book, I'm going to sign the book and put it back on the shelf, right? If you happen to find it in an airport or something like that. A lot of times if I'm traveling the country and I see the book, I'm going to sign the book and put it back. So now you have a signed copy of the book, you know?
Well, Yusef doesn't have to toot his own horn because Denise Winston, again, DMV, my sorrow, shout out Alpha Kappa Alpha. We do know how to read. It's a New York bestseller. Thank you, Denise Winston. So we ain't trying to sell nothing up in here. We're saying go out there and get the freaking book, people. Let's get some knowledge up in this head up here in between those ears. I've got another comment before we close out, Yusef. It's from June Haygood. She's out of Georgia. She's loving the interview. We need to have a weekly series, Dr. Yusef. Yeah, can we get Dr. Yusef on the Bella Biz Unplugged? 15 minutes. You know me, I'm a hard person to not say no to. We're going to work that out, June. Thank you for that opportunity because we got to talk. I would love to have you, Dr. Yusef, on when I'm trying to get Michelle Alexander. And you know she ain't playing.
Oh, she's powerful, yes.
You know she ain't playing. Let me read 2 more comments. I'm taking up Yusef's time. I keep telling y'all to get this stuff at the top of the hour. Yusef, I'm trying to keep myself sane and keep my audience. What is Barton saying now? Thank you so much, Dr. Yusef Salaam, for your time tonight. And as always, thank you, Bella. That's one of my new followers. Hey, Barton Buck, we need you. Come on, spread the joy. Because you know what? Like Dr. King said, we ain't going to do nothing. We can do nothing. We don't come to the table and talk. You said, come on.
Yeah.
It's not about just the brown and black people. It's about all people. We got one race. Come on, Yusef. You know the
Yeah.
drill.
Yeah,
One
absolutely.
race is the human race. But what we got to deal with is what we got to deal with. And tonight we are talking about bitter, not better. Let me see. We got a couple more. I'm trying to get them in, Yusef.
I'm gonna just remix that real quick because I don't want you to be on social media and somebody, putting better, not better.
The BB, right? The BB.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
I'm trying
indeed.
to rise up, Yusef. I'm trying to keep myself calm. That's very hard for Bella. We have another comment. And this is from Ashley. She's saying, Yusef, what are some suggestions to start meditation? Like any recommendations, any easy 1, 2, 3s to help our community?
The easiest thing is just to pause for a moment and to sometimes just close your eyes and think of a space or a time where you had joy and just breathe, like slow your breath down and just think about your breath. And when I say think about your breath, I'm talking about literally like become conscious of the fact that you're breathing. If it's through your mouth, that's one thing. If you want to do it more better, in through your nose, out through your mouth. If you want to do it masterfully, push your breath down past your navel, 3 inches below your navel. They say that that's the original breath, the same breath that you see babies breathing when their stomach goes up and down. Push your breath down past your navel 3 inches and then breathe out. And the best thing about it is that as you begin to master this, it calms you down, it makes you feel good, but it's about the endorphins that are going on. But as you begin to master it, you can then begin to project that out as you walk, as you drive, all of the things that you're doing. Sometimes you don't have the moment to be able to be in a room and be still and listen. Sometimes you have to get out there right now. And that's one of the good things that you could do just for a moment. You could just be conscious of your breath. Yeah. That feels good. Feels good.
Bella gonna need a whole lot of. Because you know what? It's 2022. We 17 days and Yusef. And we just getting started. So as we close out, I want to thank you publicly for just staying over a few minutes. I'm going to ask you, because I got all my Tanzania folks coming in, and they're actually writing in Swahili. They know I don't speak Swahili yet. I don't write it yet. Yusef, I love my Tanzania family. Can you please close us out as I quietly center myself and practice my breathing techniques? Anything on your heart that you can just echo out to the thousands of people who are now watching, who will watch, to give them a sense of hope. This is going to memorialize January 17th, 2022, which is the official day of the MLK, remembering MLK Day. We're going to have Dr. Yusef off. I need y'all to keep me honest again. We're going to try to see if we can get Brother Yusef to come on a few minutes, maybe throughout the year, just for a few minutes. I'd like that idea, June. Thank you very much. But just, it's a pleasure. It's an honor, brother. You know you're sacred to me. When I met you and your other bros, the other 4, I hope they're all doing well as well. But please take us home with whatever's on your heart as I close out. Thank you, Brother Yusef.
The biggest thing that I want to share is that it's about you. And you are here and you are supposed to be here. And I'm going to share with you a poem that's from my first book, Words of a Man, My Right to Be. This poem is called The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. The revolution will not be televised. I can remember when that statement made me sad inside, too young to be in it. Now I couldn't even see it. Why? Why couldn't the revolution be televised? The Last Poets, Gil Scott Heron. As I grew up, I began to see. They left theirs, and I too wanted to leave a mark on history. A man in half, and I wanted to bask in that task that set men free, but a revolution, the revolution, is where I knew I had to be. The revolution will not be televised. They didn't want to display the victory of those quote unquote lesser men. The revolution will not be televised. Smile. I know, because I am the revolution. Blessings.
Mm.
Thank you.
Whoa.